Well, here I am up at beautiful Lee Canyon. It's kind of nice to have a nice background. A little bit chilly. My hair's a mess from the hat. So today I'll talk about the housing market a bit and probably get into some stocks as well. If you're curious about the prediction on the housing market, stick around. It'll be a great video. So, good morning. My name is Adam Kahn, and I'm the Rational Investor. I hope you're doing well, and I'll get right into it. I think the housing market's going to continue to be strong. But before I explain why, do me a favor if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. I really appreciate the help. It helps YouTube's algorithm and people find the channel. So I totally appreciate that and just want to say thank you. I've been super excited to see how the channel's been growing, so I think it's super cool. So today's Saturday, and one of my favorite days because one of my favorite YouTubers comes on and he constantly talks about the housing market. He's very gloom and doom and gets into all the reasons why he sees the housing market collapsing again this year, again last year as well, and just kind of has a negative approach on the economy as a whole. He points a lot of times to the inflation, and that's the reason I think the housing market's going to stay strong, to be honest. He's consistently bringing up things like Chipotle doubling in price, getting some bowl for $12 in the past. It's now like 25. There was an example of somebody buying 10 rolls of paper towels, some toilet paper, and something else for $55. And all of these things are no different than the housing market. If everything else in the world has doubled, so will a house. Just because it's more expensive and it costs more to buy a house doesn't mean it's any different than a carton of eggs or a thing of toilet paper or a roll of paper towel or whatever it is that you've seen get more expensive. And I think that's going to continue into the future. There were also talks about in another video from somebody I really like where a lot of kids are moving in with their parents and trying to save up money. This is the way that other countries have been for years. So I just think we're a newer country. We were founded later than a lot of these other countries. I just think it's taken us time to get to this point. I see that continuing over time, that multi-generational living is just going to be more and more common as things get more expensive. There are plenty of countries where grandkids, children, and grandparents all live in the same home, and it's a nice relationship. It's not such a terrible thing. I think in some ways we've just been so spoiled over the years since we were a new country and able to expand at the rate we did. But now that things are getting more expensive to build and the cost of labor has gone up, it's not so easy to just put up more and more housing. We do have a lot of land, so I guess they could continue to build. But I think what you'll end up seeing is in the desired locations that the kids are going to have to move in with the parents because housing just gets too expensive to just buy new stuff. And rents may go up as well. But this is not anything to look at as gloom and doom. I think it's just a matter of accepting the change. COVID sped things along, and one of the things that changed is where you want to live. I think people are taking it a little bit more seriously and paying better attention as opposed to just living where their parents are, where they had to. I think now with remote work, which will continue as well, people are choosing locations that they desire and want to be in. It's causing vacation places to go up more quickly than people expect. But I don't really see that going back or reverting. And keep in mind, 2% inflation, which is the Fed's target, is still inflation. They're not trying to make a deflationary situation where it goes back to where it was, which is why I say I think people are better off to just accept where things are and get used to it. I don't picture things getting less expensive in time, whether that's a soda or a ticket to a concert, your house, or stocks, or anything. And in terms of the stock market, inflation actually helps companies that survive. If you're a company that's able to charge more, because things have inflated, the profits are going to be bigger, which is going to push the price to earnings ratios, and the stock prices should go up as well. The negative on that is that the small mom and pop places sometimes struggle and have a tough time, and the bigger corporations are able to take in that business from them, which is why they continue to grow. Even if you look behind me, this place is mobbed. I've come here for years. They didn't used to be this crowded. And with all the inflation and things costing more and everything else, as much as people complain, they seem to be doing just fine or they seem to be dealing with it and accepting it. I get there's $1 trillion in credit card debt, and I'm sure there's going to be some people that aren't able to afford those bills, but it looks like a lot of people are able to afford those bills as well. They're constantly pointing to things being more expensive, saying that the economy is going to crash. And as much as people are complaining, they still seem to be doing okay. Unless we have some massive unemployment, which I don't really see coming, which is kind of the point. I think the companies are doing okay. There's just no reason that people won't adjust. And I figure as my son, who's 13, gets older, the prices that we have in place now, he'll be used to. It won't be that big a deal to him. It's just been a shock to the system because it came so quickly over COVID and nobody expected it. I think it started as a supply chain stuff. I think the Fed was right about that. The ability to get the products to people caused too little products for too much demand. And the basics of inflation is too much demand on too few goods. So the things that were in demand, the prices went up quickly because people still needed it. But what's the thought process as to what's going to drive home prices down? I mean, really, a bunch of extra Airbnbs as they change the regulations, or if they try to force corporations to sell a bunch of homes, that they'll figure loopholes to get around it. I just don't see any big amount of inventory coming to the market because we don't have the loans that we had in 2005, 6, 7, or 2008. Things are different. You don't have interest only loans that are going to turn into a fully amortized loan and cause people to have massive payment increases. It's just not the case this time. You have people put in the homes that have good equity and low interest rates that are going to more likely look to stay in their homes or rent them out and buy a new one if rates come down. I also see rates coming down. You have an election year. You have something like 400 different between senators, congressmen, and the presidential election, there's like 400 seats up for reelection. Do you really think all these politicians are going to want a rough economy, or do you think there's going to be pressure on the Fed to start stimulating things and make sure there's a strong economy? Whether you're an incumbent or somebody fighting against them, you're going to want to see a strong economy. And on top of that, since the chair gets elected by the president, they probably want to keep him in unless they know that the other side is going to keep him in as well. That's a lot of pressure on these guys that want to keep their jobs. It's hard to imagine that they'd bust the economy and risk losing their jobs. So be careful. Don't listen to all the gloom and doomers. Stay within your budgets, whatever that is, and make sure not to buy too much because maybe there's a correction coming. I just don't see it. And I think better to have something invested, whether that's real estate or stocks or whatever it is that you guys think is important. Again, don't listen to me. I know I didn't mention it earlier. You need to make your own financial decisions. This is just what I found for my life. This is not financial advice by any means. I would just rather see people save and invest for the future than be so scared because there's a bunch of people on YouTube talking about some big collapse that may never come. Get yourself in a good position, secure a home, whatever it is, and just take care of your life and your family and accept that the inflation is here to stay. Do your best to stay save in whatever capacity that is. Well, I'll say it again before I go. Have a great day. Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. If you've made it this long, by all means, tell me I made it all the way to the end. Super cool. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit that like button and have a great rest of your weekend.